Assalamu alaikum and a very good afternoon to all of you. I hope you guys are keeping safe. My name is Hina Nasser and I am a Senior Marketing Manager at ACCA Pakistan. First of all, thank you very much for joining for today's session. This session is going to be about Punjab Finance Act 2020 and 2021 and the economic impacts, harmonization and future orientation. I'd like to thank our esteemed partners for today's session, the Institute of Cost and Management Accountants of Pakistan, ICMA, Lahore Chamber of Commerce and Industry, Lahore Tax Bar Association, and Punjab Revenue Authority. Thank you very much for joining today. So the flow of the session is pretty engaging. The total duration will be about 2 hours. We have allocated time for question and answers, but I will encourage all of you to please type in your questions and your comments regarding the session in the comment box right below there. To begin the session, I would like to invite Mr. Sajjeed Aslam, who is head of ACCA Pakistan. He'll give us a welcome address and then we'll proceed with the rest of the session. Over to you, Sajjeed.
Thank you, Hina, and Assalamu alaikum and very good afternoon. Taxation पे इस वक्त this is a season we are talking about taxation और यहाँ पे बहुत ज़्यादा गुफ्तगू taxation के हवाले से हो रही है, and today we have got a perspective from different experts as well, that how the government of Punjab is working on a taxation side and what does it look like once we will see a more futuristic approach around the time which we are going through. I would like to welcome everybody here to really participate, and we thank our partners ICMA Pakistan, PRA, LTA and LCCI, and we also thank to Mr. Abdullah Sumbal to join us today to share his perspective at the same time. मैं टैक्स पे बात नहीं करूंगा, I'll just talk about how I feel about Punjab, और मैं इसमें एक छोटी सी एग्जांपल आपको शेयर करूंगा. अभी very recently in January, early this year, before that big COVID issue, I was at the World Economic Forum and we were promoting Pakistan as one of a destination for investments. And we were talking about different areas, whether it's energy, whether it's mining, it's agriculture. और हमें वो उस तरह का इंटरेस्ट नजर नहीं आ रहा था जो कि we were expecting given the size of the opportunity and given the country and where we are right now, and there's only one way is to grow. So there's no other opportunity or there's no other option for anybody to look at once they look at Pakistan. It's all the growth story which is for future. But as soon as we started talking about our youth, we started talking about that our 60% of population is under 30 years of age and we are a population of 220 million. And we have got educated, trainable population there. And suddenly things started changing. People got interested. And we were trying to gauge why everybody is so interested once we are talking about a youth or a young population. And then we realized that we are sitting in Europe where there is a certain aged population. The number of young people are very few who will be the next workforce for these economies. And if you look at around the world, and that's a very common issue coming up. So there are very few countries who can offer such a young, trainable, educated youth as a part of a global workforce compared to many other countries who are struggling with the aged population. And that brings us to the opportunity around the services. And that's what the key area where the taxation at a provincial level works. Pakistan, as a very young accountant, as a very young lawyers, even the doctors, and with the other professions, I think we are very much set there to really claim our fair share in a global GDP. The technology has already enabled that. And now we should be looking at how we make a concentrated effort कि हम इस जो young, trainable, educated population है, उनको fundamental ethics पे बात करें, basic business के जो processes और protocols हैं, उसकी बात करें, and then we share with them what the brand means. क्योंकि एक चीज यूथ के लिए या जब आप इंटरनेशनल मार्केट या ग्लोबल मार्केट में ऑपरेट कर रहे होते हैं किसी भी हवाले से, तो वहां पे एक बड़ा कुछ की डायनामिक्स होते हैं. एक आपका अपना इंडिविजुअल ब्रांड होता है, आपकी ऑर्गेनाइजेशन का ब्रांड होता है, लेकिन ग्लोबल मार्केट में कंट्री का भी एक ब्रांड होता है. सो हमारी जो भी एक्शंस हैं उसकी इम्प्लीकेशन हमेशा कंट्री के ब्रांड पे आ रही होती है. सो एडवाइस हमारी ये होगी कि इट्स अ ग्रेट अपॉर्चुनिटी. वी ऑल should work together to make sure we realize that opportunity, we demonstrate those ethical behavior, the professionalism which anybody will expect us if we are operating in a global market or a domestic market. And then we also be very, very conscious around the brand, that if we are talking about Pakistan, we have to bring that positivity. Pakistan, it's depend how you look at it, but where I look at Pakistan, it's a great opportunity we are talking about. And that opportunity exists just because of those young people who are determined and who want to claim their fair share in a global economies and a global GDP. So we are not talking about 300 plus billion dollar economy of Pakistan. We are talking about $80 trillion की economy में से अपना हमने एक fair share लेना है, provided we act accordingly, we demonstrate those ethical behavior, we demonstrate that professionalism. Now, if you look at Punjab, the bulk of that educated population is in Punjab, and there are certain area, particularly अगर आप southern Punjab की side पे देखना शुरू करें तो वहाँ पे एक बड़ा अच्छे dynamics हैं, young women population who is very determined to really participate then in a economic activity. They are educated, they are trained, they are tech savvy, and they can start participating in that economic activity in Pakistan and abroad as well. Similarly, अगर आप central Punjab की side पे आते हैं तो वहाँ पे आपको बहुत से तालीमी इदारे मिलते हैं who can start contributing towards that, building that talent which can go back to their own areas, and they can start contributing using the technology. अब अगर हम इस सारे सिनेरियो को सर्विसेज को देखें, एक्सपोर्ट ऑफ सर्विसेज की जिस तरह हम बात कर रहे हैं, और ग्लोबल पार्टिसिपेशन फ्रॉम अ यंगर वुमेन as well as from the younger guys. So that's been हमारी policies, whichever the policies we bring in, that should help us to realize that opportunity. इस वक्त जो services पे taxation की regimes हैं, उसमें there are certain services which are exempt, there are certain services which are incentivized, but the understanding of the service industry is not there, and this is our role, like ICMA Pakistan, like ACCA, like PRA, like Lahore Tax Bar, like LCCI, to really promote and create that understanding that services business is way beyond the IT and IT-enabled services now. So, उन सारी services को अगर हम capture करें और हम देखें कि market share हम किस तरह ले सकते हैं, तो that's where we need more incentivized opportunities from the government of Punjab, how they can create that ecosystem and how they support that ecosystem from a taxation perspective. And that's also one of a source to attract foreign investment in this region, provided we can create that kind of environment where the young people, they are demonstrating the ethical behavior and professionalism in whatever profession they have. The government is aligned in terms of incentivizing those sectors, and the government is aligned to really make that concentrated effort in a certain region as a pilot to start with, and then grow that one. The second part which I would like to just touch upon is the harmonization of the taxation across different provinces. अगर आज आप देखें तो different tax rates हैं, and that make all sense for that particular provinces to attract investments and incentive. But the one thing which we need more harmonized is in terms of the adjustment of the refunds, particularly agar service is going to be our backbone and the youth is going to be the key economic activity driver in terms of the services, then we would like to see a mechanism where the people who are working across the different provinces, they should be able to really adjust those refunds and the taxes in a very, very smooth way, and it should not become a struggle. So at the end, I'll just like to welcome you, and I'd like you to participate as much as you can, share your concern and the question, and we have got a very able panel to really answer those ones. So thank you very much for joining us today, and I wish you a very good session. Over to you, Helen.
Thank you very much, Sajjeed, for that. So as Sajjeed was talking about technology, talent, and taxation and policies coming from the government agencies, these can all group up together, and the opportunities that Sajjeed was talking about, we all need to, as younger generation, as the society, we need to seize those opportunities and make the best out of it. Without further ado, I would like to invite our chief guest for today, Mr. Abdullah Khan Sumbal. He is Finance Secretary, Government of Punjab. Thank you very much, sir, for taking time out to join us for this session today. Over to you, sir.
Thank you. I'm grateful to the ACCA for having invited me. I think this is one session which will keep us in good stead in the times to come. There's a lot to learn. I think I shouldn't take a lot of your time. I like to listen to what the other panelists have to say. I'm sure they are going to add to my wisdom. I'll take it to my team as well. Just for starters, I think the context has been very nicely set by Mr. Sajjeed Aslam. I think these are the issues which we are also mindful of, the ones that have been raised by him. Pretty much our agenda as well. There's a lot of talk about economic regeneration post-COVID. Let me begin by saying that when it comes to assessment of the impact, the actual impact of COVID-19, there are some presumptions that are floating around. In particular, when you look at the health sector, which obviously took the brunt of the effort, the effort that was rolled out in response to the COVID epidemic, health department was in the forefront. That is well documented. That is well understood. That what were the gaps, understood there. What were the shortcomings, and how are we going to address them? But when it comes to economic regeneration and economic revival, just to bring things back to an even keel, the assumptions are not very precise. I'm sure there's a lot of good work being done as we speak. Some good analysis have been forwarded as well by leading analysts. Not denying their significance and their value, let me still say that it is still a bit tentative and it is presumptive as well. Submission that I want to make to you. The Punjab government, obviously, there are huge expectations about its work, being the largest province, also containing the biggest bureaucracy. Let me also say this in so many words. The expectations are very, very telling, are big. We've tried to be mindful of a unique situation and its different dimensions. We would like to submit that our budget, our finance bill for the Finance Act for the year 2020-21 is forward-looking. It's business-friendly. It has factored in ease of doing business and documentation of economy too. Big ideals for us very strongly. We've also looked in great detail at the construction sector, because the federal government keeps telling us that you need to factor the construction industry dynamics big time, and for very valid reasons as well. And let me also tell you that beyond the Finance Act, we've also still tried to introduce elements of ease of doing business and documentation of economy and facilitation for the construction sector elsewhere as well, beyond the framework and the ambit of the Finance Act. For instance, we've got a very clear statement there in the budget papers which relate to the public-private partnerships. Punjab is the first government which has given a blanket exemption or zero rating on sales tax on services for PPPs, for public-private partnerships. A blanket waiver or zero rating for a period of 5 years, as long as that. So all this basically testifies to the fact that we are mindful of the fact that the private sector has to lead the economic regeneration forward. The government still remains the biggest employer, but employment generation, economic revival is something that needs to be led by the private sector. We would like to believe that the stakeholders have been on board, despite COVID and the impediments created by needs of social distancing. We still reached out to our stakeholders, not in big numbers, very selectively, but we did ask. This was the first ever budget in which we went to the masses. We advertised our citizens' budget requirements in leading national dailies, and we tried to elicit response of the public at large, and the results were quite heartening. and people thought that giving private sector greater space would make a lot of sense. I would also like to very briefly touch upon the issue of harmonization of taxes, as Mr. Sajjeed Aslam also alluded to. Harmonization of sales tax regime is going to be a big undertaking. It's challenging, but we are getting there slowly and gradually. Very recently, some very constructive discussions have taken place. So my only submission here today would be that for us, harmonization does not mean an out-and-out convergence, an out-and-out convergence, total consensus. Getting close to, each other's frameworks would be good to begin with, and eventually it can pave the way for a larger consensus. This is our fundamental belief there. As far as the budgets in the years to come are concerned, let me also just very briefly take a minute and speak about them. We still would like to believe that staying in the IMF regime, working in the IMF regime would be very challenging, because the provincial governments are supposed to throw up surplus budgets, right? Even this year, we have signed off on a document, a memorandum of understanding with the federal government, which binds the finance department and the government of Punjab to a surplus of 125 billion rupees. Now that's big. In a financially constrained situation, it's a huge target to be achieved, and it would need a lot of good work on revenue generation as well as on expenditure management. The expenditure cuts are going to be in the offing, and that will hurt a few sectors, but definitely not let this impact this economic regeneration effort. So lots of emphasis on revenue generation, what we call the own source revenue. So we need a greater understanding. We need to sharpen our tools and our understanding as well. A very interesting point was raised by Mr. Sajjeed Aslam in his initial talk about broadening the sales tax base. We are mindful of the fact that it needs to be taken beyond the IT and it needs to be understood in its entirety, because just having elements of it is not going to serve the purpose. It needs to be broad-based, and sales tax on services is going to be the major tax for the provincial government, and we have struggled in it historically. So these are my initial thoughts, and I'd really like to listen from all the panelists, and I'll take notes, and whenever I'm required to come up with an intervention or a response, I'm available, and I thank ACCA and all the partners again. Grateful.
Thank you very much, Mr. Abdullah, for that. And thank you for enlightening all the audiences. I think all the steps that you have mentioned that the government of Punjab is taking right now are indications that we are moving towards the right direction. It always takes some time to bring all the relevant parties on the table to have a discussion, and then consensus is the end benchmark, but it might take them some time, and we encourage and we thank the government of Pakistan for all the efforts. Can I please invite Mr. Omer Zaheer Meer to moderate the question and answer sessions with Mr. Abdullah Khan Sumbal? Omer Zaheer Meer is a member, Global Tax Forum, Chairman MNP and Tax Committee, ACCA. Welcome, Omer.
Thank you, Hina. Do we have Mr. Sumbal with us live now?
I'm with you. I was just returning to a guest, and I'll do multitasking, but I'm very much with you.
Okay, great. Your opening remarks have been quite interesting, and I'm faced with a dilemma that many of the questions that were supposed to be asked of you, you have already answered. So thank you for that. With that, I'll begin with the first question. This budget has remarkably been different. You're right in that, with a total outlay of 2.424 trillion, development budget of 337 billion, and a COVID-19 relief package of 56.5 billion. Would you like to share some insights that what are your views about the strategic direction of the Punjab government in lieu of this Punjab Finance Act 2020. And obviously, we are talking about the strategic direction in terms of the finances.
Was this question meant for me?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
This Q&A is exclusively with you for the next 10 minutes. And then the rest of the panel.
Thank you. Thank you, and my apologies. Let me say yes. 337 billion was something that we weren't really anticipating. I'll be very candid with you here, because the estimated provincial surplus that the Punjab government had to throw up, as I shared with you, was obviously ominously lurking around 125 billion. It finally got settled at, right. So that being a fact meant that we were always going to cut corners. We've actually had to freeze our salary budget, right? Freeze our salary budget at the last year's level. There are increments, that are given to the workforce. There are other allowances that have to be administered, whether you like them or not, but you have to administer allowances. Some incentives are also given to our, newly created authorities and units that are to take the development agenda forward. So it was very difficult. The balancing act, that was very difficult. And we were always thinking that we have to, we are being watched as the province who would set an example. The other provinces were also looking at us while we were, while we were completing our budget making process somewhere in April and May. The other provinces would consult us frequently. So हमारे लिए ये एक बहुत बड़ा it was a pressure situation. But thanks to a lot of good work, good consultation, good advice by various stakeholders, which obviously many of them belong from from outside the government as well. So that was very gratifying and very useful. The budget basically is one big I would say a silo of sorts. But it needs to be understood in the larger governance framework. And we now very clearly believe civil society also contains think tanks and academia. We also reached out to them and we sharpened our understanding there with their assistance. The development budget clearly spells out two things, if I may submit here. One, that our social sector development has been factored in big time. We know for a fact that the social sector indicators are still not shaping up enough, right? And in international comparisons, in regional comparisons, we are lagging behind. So very clearly, we have increased our health and education allocations, both on the development and non-development side. Since your question was more about development side, let me say this. And we believe that only through human development, only through good, investments in the health and education sector can you move towards economic development as well. You need a workforce which is educated and which is trained. And without having good human development indicators, you would struggle. So we believe that human development is a better index rather than economic growth alone. Economic growth is good, but not good enough. Economic growth should be coupled with a human development. So that's our understanding. And going forward, this would be the key factor. The development budget nicely complements the Finance Act. I think wherever we have given greater development allocations, we've backed them up with substantial, if not big, substantial allocations on the non-development side as well. The disconnect between the development and non-development allocation has been reduced. I'm not claiming that it has been removed. There is also a debate that the development, non-development, differentiation is artificial. The line between them is way too thin, and it needs to be, seen through as well. So this is something that we've really been mindful of. So the development budget needs to be seen in this context, and we also believe that utilization of development funds will be critical. The finance department only provides cash cover to the development spending, but we would also be working very closely with our planning and development department, and we would like to ensure that the development spending is adequate. This year, despite COVID, we finished at 90% utilization, which was very good, which was very heartening. The 238 billion were utilized despite COVID. Massive cuts were introduced in the last quarter of the last financial year. But even then, we finished at 238 billion, which was very comforting. Thank you.
I totally agree, especially the fact that all financial circles know that last quarter is the most critical and where the most utilizations are normally made. And it's very heartening to know that you have such a good focus and impetus on the social development, which is the key to economic revival of the lesser segments of the society. So thank you for that. The next question, sir, you have mentioned in your discussion, and this is a discourse that's been happening in the professional circles. I remember a conference that ACCA Lahore Chamber, Lahore Tax Bar jointly held about harmonization. So I'm pretty sure you are on top of all the developments. Now, in this catch-22 situation where 3 provinces are agreeing on one principle and Sindh wants to go on initiation, do you believe there is any solution to this? And can we hope to see that anytime soon?
Yes, I think there is reason to believe that we are heading in the right direction. As I submitted early, in my initial submissions, that harmonization would not mean a total consensus. A broad-based convergence would be good enough, and I think will be useful. So we're getting there slowly. There is some politics involved in it. Political economy needs to be understood at that level as well, at the seriously political level as well. So I think it will be addressed well. The political economy issues are being addressed. There's a lot of consultation going on. And the federal government also keeps interacting with Sindh at different levels. The impression that the relations are strained may be a little exaggerated. It's occasionally a tense interaction on the face of it, but behind the scenes there is obviously an effort to keep assuaging the concerns of it houses the financial capital of Pakistan. Karachi still is the financial capital of Pakistan, and still understands that. So I think this is very well, acknowledged by other provinces also. Punjab definitely, looks at it like this. The harmonization issue needs to be settled within this financial year. It would really be, most appropriate if it is settled in the first half of the financial year. I'm sure you've got experts on your panel who would know more about it. But my understanding of it is that the federal government is leading the effort in collaboration with international partners as well. The World Bank is very keen to see this happening, right? And I think ये सारी जो support होगी, this is kind of ring fencing this issue and would take it forward. Sindh के ऊपर pressure है, Punjab के ऊपर pressure. I think the KP is also playing ball. The KP is also very understanding. And initial the first discussions which I participated in somewhere in the same months last year were much more difficult. The last few discussions were much more congenial in terms of understanding each other. There was an understanding that everybody is looking at the provincial governments in particular, and are probably assuming that the provincial governments are not getting their act together, and that is unfortunate. But the pressure, it's positive. So I see the pressure also working out. The understanding has increased, has enhanced many folds, and we're getting there. ये जो point of origin and point of destination है, ये भी सबसे critical question नहीं होगा. Basically ये होगा कि harmonization needs to be done in a framework. इसमें tax rates भी count करेंगे, इसमें zero rating exemptions all will figure in very prominently. So maybe COVID has given us an opportunity to understand each other well. Our interaction with Sindh at different levels, the Punjab government's interaction with Sindh is very purposeful. Punjab understood a lot from the Sindh, experiences in the PPP, scheme of things. Sindh has done very well in PPPs, by the way. So हमने वहाँ से उनसे सीखा है. I think SRB had a head start over all other revenue authorities. I think PRA's creation owed a lot to the understanding that we got from Sindh. So we really are still optimistic, and we hope that these differences will be ironed out to a large extent. We don't really need a total out-and-out consensus.
Great. Thank you very much for such insights. Since we have almost ran out of time, I would just go to a very popular question we have been receiving from our members. And that is that you have mentioned, and I think that's a very professional approach of engaging various stakeholders. Earlier this year, we had a session with the federal government, and we had FPR's board representative on that. And they were kind enough to agree to have a consultative process throughout the year, rather than just having it before the budget, when everybody is really pushed for time. So do you believe such an exercise can be done at the Punjab level? I personally sit on the Global Tax Forum of ACCA, and ACCA with its expertise across the globe can really bring a lot of expertise to the table. And then we have Chamber, Lahore Tax Bar, everybody together. So in the spirit of the things that you were thinking about, thinking ahead and collaborating, perhaps that exercise can really bring some results. The closing question, what are your thoughts on this proposal?
I think this would be wonderful if it happens. As I suggested earlier on as well, that had it not been for the social distancing requirements, we would have reached out more. We were all set to do that because we knew that this was going to be a critical year. And when COVID set in, the things were really turned upside down, and then, we had to go back to the drawing board, as it were. Really, entire number crunching was redone. So it was even more desirable then to ask around and to really, develop an understanding that goes beyond our worldview. Our new worldview is obviously restricted. We never assume that we are Mr. Know-alls. No, none of us is. We have a finance minister who's been a banker, who's very forward-looking, a very progressive young man who obviously is very keen to interact. The COVID phenomenon, like the government does occasionally, right? So, but let me again say this with total, conviction that we were going to reach out to the think tanks, to the intelligentsia, to the chambers of commerce, to other leading institutions and organizations that have a role to play, that can guide on revenue issues, taxation issues, and economic uplift issues, economic development issues. We were going to reach out to them and understand. Just then, we were pushed back by something as big as COVID. But even then, we realized that getting opinion from different walks of life and from different sectors is going to be important, and we advertised. The advertisement wasn't just meant for the citizens alone. Obviously, it was done under the rubric of citizens' budget, but we also thought that while we were asking the citizens about their inputs and their insights, the intelligentsia and the private sector organizations were also most welcome to have sent us their suggestions. One or two did actually, and I can share the names with you if you so want. Right, one of the two or three, not one or two or three of them did. We got something from the PILDAT, for instance. The PILDAT wrote to us about one dimension of budget making, and we were very encouraged by that. So that's how we've approached it. And next year, God willing, inshallah, with no COVID, really impacting our strides towards the budget making effort, we'll definitely do it.
Great. Thank you, sir. Our team will engage with your good office with the proposals to build a mechanism to interact throughout the year. Thank you very much for your insights. We are going to now have a quick presentation delivered by two of ACCA's members who also attended ACCA's flagship six-digit program. The presentation is an overview of the key changes and reforms in the Punjab Finance Act 2020-21, and the presentation will begin with Mr. Sikandar Ishtiaq opening that for ACCA, and halfway through, just before we are starting to discuss the schedules and some changes with regard to the construction sector, Hafiz Suleiman would then take over from Mr. Sikandar Ishtiaq. So over to you, Sikandar. Please start your presentation.
Thank you, Omer. I will just first share slides. So I will just give you a brief on Punjab Finance Act 2020-21. I will just quickly go through the main amendments introduced in the bill. The main highlights of the bill were the core dimension of the bill remains the social welfare and expenditure control. The government has focused on development of people and the strategies to effectively manage the cost in the current ongoing pandemic situation. There were unprecedented amendments were introduced to provide financial relief to the taxpayers. As you know, the good thing remains the health and education sector remains the top priority sectors. The total outlay of the budget remained 2.24 trillion. Despite the current pandemic situation, the government has provided a handsome amount of 337 billion for development, and special COVID relief package of 56 billion were provided. These were the main highlights of it. Now, quickly going over the main sections amendments proposed. In section 16, the main aim of the bill remains the rationalization of input tax adjustment. In section 16.2, previously there was not clarity regarding the time frame for to claim adjustment of inputs. अब इस फाइनेंस एक्ट में गवर्नमेंट ने एक्सप्लिसिटली मेंशन कर दिया है registered person can claim adjustment on tax invoices or declaration of imports of goods not older than 66 months. The goods of imports, the invoices should bear the name of the taxpayer and the NTN number. और आपने किसी भी चाहे फेडरल में चाहे किसी प्रोविंशियल सेल टैक्स में आपने इनपुट क्लेम किया हो तो आप 6 months के अंदर आप उसको एडजस्टमेंट क्लेम कर सकते हैं. Under section 16C, taxpayer can adjust 80% of the input tax against its output tax. Just like the Finance Act of Federal 1990, वहाँ पे जैसा कि आपको पता है कि अमेंडमेंट है ऑलरेडी एग्जिस्ट करती है टैक्स पेयर 90% ऑफ इनपुट अगर अपना एडजस्ट करवा सकता है. In line with that, the Punjab has also introduced in Finance Act, now the taxpayer can adjust 80% of the input against its output tax. With every law, there is exception. PRA hold the right to exclude any person or class of person from the above leave as provided in section 16.2. New section 16D has been inserted in Finance Bill where the PRA and its officers are empowered to entertain the application of refunds and they can grant the refund to registered taxpayer. However, this refund should only be based on unintentional error or misconstructions. Regarding deregistration, the PRA has transferred its authority to commissioners in relation to deregistration of the service providers. This will, decrease the timeliness and improve the efficiency of the operations. Regarding audit proceeding regarding current pandemic situation, I think and to maintain the social distancing concept, the authorized officers are empowered to conduct audit proceeding electronically through video links or any other facility as may be notified by the PRA. There is a new concept of audit cum risk compliance officer were introduced in section 39. The role of audit compliance and risk compliance functions are merged under one officer known as audit cum risk compliance officer. This will enhance the audit selection process as now the PRA will be more focused on risk-based selection for audits. There will be no random basis for selection of audit. I think this is the very positive change introduced in the section. Regarding appeals, now the appeals can also be filed electronically with commissioners as specified by the PRA notification. Regarding recovery of areas of tax, now the PRA officers are empowered to make recoveries from running finance or demand finance facility by the banking company of the taxpayers. If the appellate tribunal has adjudged the amount, then the officer may also arrest or cause to arrest the defaulter and detain him in prison for up to a period of 6 months. However, if the taxpayer has preferred to deposit the amount equal to 10% of the penalty, then no recovery will be made through attachment of immovable property. The main amendment was that last year this limit was 25%, now it was reduced to 10%. Regarding record section 31, a very elaborative list of documents and list has been provided in the Finance Act. Now I have just briefly summarized the previous amendment and now the new amendments proposed in the Finance Act. Now the records of all exempt supplies, goods and services indicating their quantity and value should also be maintained. Previously only with such detail only the taxable services details has been maintained. Now we have to maintain the exempt services details also, along with double entry accounts, bank statement, other inventory records, and any other record deemed necessary by the PRA. Now going forward, on second schedule from onward, I will hand over to Mr. Hafiz Suleiman to give a brief overview over that. Over to you, Hafiz.
Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Thank you, Sikandar. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. कोविड ने हमें बहुत कुछ सिखा दिया है कि जो हम नहीं कर रहे थे या फ्यूचर में करना चाह रहे थे, उसने एकदम से हमें सब कुछ सिखा दिया है। ये बजट भी कुछ ऐसा ही डिजाइन किया गया है जिसमें रिलीफ्स दिए गए हैं उन लोगों को कि जो बिजनेस प्रॉपर्ली नहीं कर पा रहे। फॉर एग्जांपल, वी स्टार्ट विद द होटल्स, मोटल्स एंड गेस्ट हाउस, एंड they were charged about 16% firstly, then COVID came and government initiate that they will charge only 0% on their supplies. But now they under COVID-19 situation, government suggested कि ये फिर सिर्फ 5% जो है वो टैक्स पे करेंगे। इनके अंदर कवर किया गया होटल्स, मोटल्स को, मैरिज हॉल्स और कैटरिंग लॉन्स को, और साथ ही साथ जो हेल्थ इंश्योरेंसेज और इस तरह की जितनी भी आपकी फैसिलिटीज हैं उसके ऊपर 0% रख दिया गया है। नाउ केम विद द restaurants who are charging their bill on debit or credit card will charge 5%, and जो उनका कैश चैनल है उसके ऊपर 16% टैक्स ही रिमेन रहेगा। इसी तरह आगे चलते हुए we talk about like travel agents, 5% कर दिया गया है। सर्विसेज प्रोवाइडेड फॉर पर्सनल केयर, ब्यूटी सैलून्स, इनके लिए भी 5% कर दिया गया, लेकिन इधर एक एक्सेप्शन रखी गई है कि जो एयर कंडीशन नहीं यूज करते उनके लिए 16% रेट ही रहेगा। नाउ 2 more sections are added for ride hailing services, like कुछ कंपनीज जो राइड हेलिंग सर्विसेज की फैसिलिटी ऑफर कर रही हैं उनके ऊपर कोई टैक्स नहीं था, बट फ्रॉम दिस फाइनेंस एक्ट दे आर चार्ज 4% without input tax adjustment. As well as if we talk about construction industry, तो उसके ऊपर भी 5% without input tax adjustment टैक्स अप्लाई कर दिया गया। स्टैम्प एक्ट, ये वो रियल एस्टेट का सेक्टर है जिसको बहुत ही ज़्यादा इंसेंटिवाइज किया जा रहा है फॉर द रिवाइवल ऑफ इकोनॉमी, और जो भी स्टैम्प एक्ट के अंदर चेंजेस की गई हैं सारे रेट्स को रिड्यूस कर दिया गया फॉर registration of properties, like they reduced to 1 and 2%. As well as this amendment was initiated in April till June 30, but in this finance act इसको मजीद extend कर दिया गया है post budget भी। Okay, urban immovable property tax act में भी changes की गई हैं and discount पे किया जा रहा है उनके ऊपर जो ई पेमेंट्स पे कर रहे हैं। कोविड-19 ने सोशल डिस्टेंसिंग का हमें सिखाया और हमने उसको अप्लाई किया कि जो भी ई पेमेंट करेगा उसको हम डिस्काउंट ऑफर करेंगे। दैट्स वेरी गुड इनिशिएटिव। 5% डिस्काउंट उनको दिया जा रहा है जो ई पेमेंट के थ्रू पेमेंट कर रहे हैं, और अगर आप 30 सितंबर से पहले पे करते हैं तो आपको 10% वहां पे भी एनुअल टैक्स के ऊपर डिस्काउंट अलॉट किया जा रहा है. नाउ कम विद द रियल एस्टेट सेक्टर इंसेंटिवाइज. जैसा कि मैंने पहले भी जिक्र किया है, रियल एस्टेट को बहुत ज़्यादा इकोनॉमी को रिवाइवल के लिए और सर्वाइवल के लिए इसको बहुत ज़्यादा इंसेंटिवाइज किया गया. पीआरए में भी इसको रिलीफ दिए गए हैं. फॉर एग्जांपल वी टॉक अबाउट नॉर्मल को हम 8% इनपुट विदाउट इनपुट टैक्स चार्ज कर रहे थे, 16% विद इनपुट टैक्स था नॉर्मल हाउसिंग स्कीम में. अफोर्डेबल हाउसिंग स्कीम में हम 5% और 16% पे थे, लेकिन अब इनको रिड्यूस करके पर स्क्वायर फीट रेट 50 रुपीज़ कर दिया गया. सो इफ़ वी like go through a simple chart, Sikandar, I think yes, this one. So ये देखा जा सकता है कि सेविंग जो है वो बढ़ा दी गई हैं और इंसेंटिवाइज किया जा रहा है. जैसे कि नॉर्मली 192 रुपीज़ पर स्क्वायर फीट जो था वो चार्ज किया जा रहा था विद इनपुट टैक्स, बट अब इतना बड़ा रिलीफ दे दिया गया कि 142 पर स्क्वायर फीट छूट रहा है. इसी तरह हम अफोर्डेबल हाउसिंग स्कीम की तरफ भी देखें तो they give certain discounts like 110 per square feet पे आपको डिस्काउंट मिल रहा है. Now we talk about the entertainment industry. This is the industry which affected the most in COVID-19 situation. The tax rate was 20%. Now it reduced to 5%, and it covers all the cinemas and all entertainment industry as well. And when we talk about the Punjab Motor Vehicle Taxation Act, it gives a lot of discounts for payments through e-payments. Like it also advertise on different channels that if we pay through e-payments, then we get about 25% discount, but PRA give 5% discount on it. As well as if we default in tax payments for previous year and we want to pay that as well, no penalty will be charged in this year. All these reliefs are given to the general public for catering the COVID-19 effects, and it's very good initiative from PRA. Thank you everyone. Over to Omer Zaheer Meer.
Actually, over to Hena.
Thank you, Omer. Thank you very much, Mr. Sikandar and Hafiz Suleiman. That was very enlightening. We will be now moving to our panel discussion for today. As Mr. Abdullah was also mentioning, that it's very important to go through these partnership. ACCA takes pride in connecting all these organizations at one platform. To begin with, I would like to invite Mr. Zia-Ul-Mustafa, who is the President, ICMA Pakistan. Mr. Kashif Anwar, Chairman, Standing Committee on Taxation, LCCI. Mr. Khurram Shahbaz, President, LTBA. Mr. Javed, Ahmed, Tax Economist, PRA. I'd like to welcome our moderator for today's session, Mr. Omer Zaheer Meer, once again. Thank you very much, gentlemen. Over to you, Omer, for the panel discussion.
Thank you, Hena. So we have a very good packed panel for today's session. Can I request all the panelists to mute themselves and unmute when they are answering to avoid this echo? Great, thank you. So Hena has already introduced our panelists, and I'm grateful to you all for sparing the time. I do know this is also election time in Lahore Tax Bar, so especially Khurram Sahab, thank you. I know you have some events today, and we'll just go straight into the things. The first question is for the scene setting. So we have listened to the Honourable Secretary Finance, the government's perspective and views. We have seen the overall quick presentation, the overview by our members. So my first question to you all, and I'd request you all to keep that brief because we'll be discussing in detail, is that what is your overall opinion of this Punjab Finance Act 2020? So I think we'll start with the taxation fraternity's perspective. Mr. Khurram Shahbaz Sahab, if you could give your perspective on the Finance Act.
Thank you, Omer, for giving me the opportunity. With your permission, at the very outset, I would like to thank Mr. Ali Zaheer Meer. It is not only Lahore Tax Bar Association's elections which are going on, but I am aware of the fact that MNP elections of ACC are also taking place. Despite the fact he was busy in his campaign, still he has given a lot of time to this event. And thank you very much, Ali Zaheer Meer Sahab, again. As far as your question regarding the overall budget is concerned, uh, overall I am very happy with the budget, because we have seen that despite the fact that there was a COVID situation going on and the government of Punjab has taken cognizance of the situation, and the amendments which have been done through the Punjab Finance Act 2020, I believe they are very positive. In lots and lots of services which were earlier taxable at the standard date, the rate of tax has been reduced. But there is one alarming amendment which I believe I need it is to be discussed today. Section 70 of the Punjab Sales Tax on Services Act, that has been amended, and specifically clause BB, that has been amended. And I am this amendment is very surprising for me, because if we read the section which was prior to the Finance Act 2020 amendment, so recovery of tax from a taxpayer could only be made from the funds which are lying with another person and which belong to that taxpayer. And very important amendment which has been done through this Punjab Finance Act is that they have added the word including running and demand finance. This amendment is not appealing my mind, because अगर कोई पैसा किसी बैंक के पास मेरा पड़ा हो तो मुझे समझ आती है कि उसमें से रिकवरी की जा सकती है. But when we see that an amount which I have to pay to the bank, और वो फैसिलिटी मिसाल के तौर पे मेरी 100 मिलियन की उन्होंने मुझे दी है, और उसमें से मैंने 50 लाख की जो है वो फैसिलिटी अवेल की, और बाकी वो फैसिलिटी अभी उनके पास पड़ी है, उसमें से भी रिकवरी की जा सकती है. दिस इज वेरी स्ट्रेंज. जो पैसा मेरा है ही नहीं, उससे कैसे रिकवरी की जा सकती है? दिस इज द ओनली स्ट्रेंज अमेंडमेंट व्हिच आई बिलीव दिस हैज बीन मेड थ्रू पंजाब Finance Act 2020.
And this is question number 3 that I'll be discussing with you.
जी जी. तो मैं समझता हूँ कि ओवरऑल अगर आप मुझसे पूछें तो Punjab Finance Act is a very good budget. Through this, the budget is excellent. Government had taken cognizance of the situation, but this is the only amendment which was pinching my mind ever since I have read this Finance Act. Javed Ahmed Saab is here. He will explain the situation. कि ये तो कैसे possible है, and I tell you that I have 5 to 6 writs lying on my table for challenging this amendment.
So you are giving them a head start. We will be taking Javed Saab's view, but let us first take another professional perspective. So we have with us Honourable Mr. Zia-Ul-Mustafa, who is the President of ICMA Pakistan. So Zia Saab, how do you view the budget? We have heard the perspective of Lahore Tax Bar. Now over to you for ICMAP's perspective.
Thank you, Omer. First of all, I would like to appreciate ACCA for organizing this show, and with the support of all the other stakeholders. Really very much appreciable. I would like to appreciate the kind of budget which the government of Punjab has presented in this pandemic situation, and as said by President Lahore Tax Bar, this is very encouraging. They are trying to mobilize the different resources for the economic activity, and they are giving some relaxations and benefits to the different sectors. So in my opinion, budget, as far as budget is document is concerned, it is good, and the will is there that government would like to enhance the economic activity in the country by giving relief in some sectors. But few things more which government should may consider sometimes it is we can make a very good plan, but the implementation has certain issues. As one of the thing highlighted by the Shahbaz साहब कि ये क्लॉज इसमें इस तरह आ रही और कैसे होगा, मैं आपसे थोड़ा सा प्रैक्टिकली 2-3 issues डिस्कस करता हूँ. One thing is the budget which you have to release to the different agencies to the government. So this is a very complicated process, and due to which a lot of funds could not be utilized properly. So this mechanism needs to be improved so that the targets can be achieved. Most of the funds normally unspent, and there is a very complicated processes involved to release budgets to the different organizations. And then it is good that the allocation for the public sector development program, which is about 15% of the total budget outlay, that is 337 billion we have right now in this budget document, and out of which 25 billion they are also forcing for the public-private partnership. If we look towards the public-private partnership, I think we have not good examples in this public-private ventures. So this mechanism needs to be evaluate why we are lacking in this public-private ventures, why these ventures are not successful, why the kind of legal shelters available to the private sector or to the other parties. So this is sometimes a misuse of such kind of legal clauses. So the ventures are need to be successful. It is 25 billion is a good amount which a government would like to encourage to the private sector. And then if we look towards the budget for the education, again for education most of the budget is for the salaries and for the non-development expenditures. So it should be more productive. And this is a good sign that at least in a budget document we have a plan for a 125 billion surplus, which is a good sign that there is not a budget in the deficit. And if we look for the audience, just
can I just mention here that we have questions focused on these individual aspects. So if you could just conclude your overall impression of the budget, and then we'll be discussing these individual aspects with you.
Yeah, overall, as I said, the budget is encouraging, and the relief the government has given the relief, and the intention of the government is clear to enhance the economic activity. So as far as this document is, this is good, but the implementation has to be improved. We have to work on how to improve this.
Thank you, sir. Thanks for your feedback. Javed sir, please be prepared. Before coming towards you, we'll just take the feedback from the business community's representation. So Kashif Anwar sir, representing Lahore Chamber, always known for speaking his mind. Over to you. Kashif sir, I know you will have a lot of comments, but we just need your overall perspective, and then we'll be discussing the individual aspects.
थैंक यू वेरी मच. हाँ जी, जहाँ तक ओवरऑल पर्सपेक्टिव की बात है, बिल्कुल बजट अच्छा है, कोई बहुत से ज़्यादा नए टैक्सेस नहीं लगे हैं, टैक्सेस को रिड्यूस किया गया है, फैसिलिटेशन और ईज ऑफ डूइंग बिजनेस की हम बात कर रहे हैं, उसके लिए काम किया गया है. लेकिन बात यह है कि कुछ ऐसे सेक्टर्स अगर हम देखें कि जून तक जो कोविड से जिन्हें नुकसान पहुंचा और जो कोविड के बाद भी हैं, अभी तक बहुत से सेक्टर्स नहीं खुले हैं, तो अगर हमने ऐसे सेक्टर्स के लिए पैसा रखा है उनकी फैसिलिटेशन के लिए, तो क्या उन सेक्टर्स को मिल रहा है? और जहां तक बात है कम्युनिटी के लिए बिल्कुल काम कर रही है गवर्नमेंट. जहां तक अगर हम बात करें कि कंस्ट्रक्शन सेक्टर को चलाना चाह रहे हैं, ये भी एक अच्छी बात है कि दोनों हमारी फेडरल गवर्नमेंट भी और हमारी प्रोविंशियल गवर्नमेंट भी इस तरफ आ गए हैं कि जब तक हम इकोनॉमिक एक्टिविटी क्रिएट करना चाहते हैं तो हमें कंस्ट्रक्शन सेक्टर को चलाना होगा. जब तक हम इसको नहीं चलाएंगे, जब तक हम इसके लिए आसानियां पैदा नहीं करेंगे, तब तक ये हमारा सेक्टर नहीं चलेगा. लेकिन बात ये भी है कि कुछ अब जैसे इख्तियारात, मेरा सवाल यहाँ पर सिर्फ ये है कि हम बिजनेस कम्युनिटी को तो पता चलता है जब उसके ऊपर तलवार गिरती है. देखिए, आप प्रोफेशनल्स पूरे बजट्स को पढ़ते हैं, आप प्रोफेशनल्स पूरे एक्ट्स को पढ़ते हैं, लेकिन हमें तो तब पता चलता है जब हमारे अकाउंट से पैसे निकल जाते हैं. हमें तो तब पता लगता है कि हम पे जब पेनल्टीज लग जाती हैं. और जो मेरा यहाँ सवाल सिर्फ ये है कि हम बिजनेस कम्युनिटी को क्या हमारे इख्तियारात भी बढ़ाए गए हैं पूरे बजट में? जैसा कहा कि बैंक अटैचमेंट हो सकेगी और आरएफ से भी पैसा लिया जा सकेगा. तो हमारा मकसद तो सिर्फ ये है कि हम चाहते हैं कि हमसे पैसे लिए जाएं, हम चाहते हैं टैक्स देना, लेकिन क्या हमारे इख्तियारात को कहीं पर बढ़ाया गया है? क्या प्रोविंस में, क्या फेडरेशन में? इट इज वेरी गुड।
आपने सबके कमेंट्स सुने। अब आपसे हमारा सवाल इस बारे में ये होगा कि no doubt everyone is appreciative. This is a good budget in very difficult circumstances, but there is a tone that some of the measures are perhaps not reformative, but they are towards the line of some other taxation bodies, which causes problem to taxpayers. Mr. Khurram Shahbaz Bhatt has identified that. Mr. Zia also referred to that. Mr. Kashif even said that indirectly. And that might even be a constitutional issue. So what, in a good budget, which was being appreciated from everyone, why was there a need to put in such a condition that the officers would make recovery, not just from anyone's finances, but from running finance or demand finance facilities, so even from the borrowed accounts? Could you please shed some light on that, and whether the government or PRA would be considering to do that? Over to you.
Thank you, Omer. So, all right. I was just preparing myself to give an overview of the budget and the prevailing economic situation. But let me start with my answer to this introduction of this running finance and demand finance thing. At the outset, I must tell you that this is in line with the international best practices. It is in the EU law, it is in other laws as well, and we have imbibed and we have incorporated that provision from there. So over the year, we have witnessed that certain businesses are hiding their business accounts from us. And instead, they are doing their normal business transactions through running finances or demand finances. So in the past, we witnessed that there is a problem. Whenever we wanted to recover our due tax, there was a problem. So we have introduced this. But let me tell you honestly that this is not for the ordinary businesses. We know which specific businesses are doing this, and they also know that this provision has been introduced for themselves. So the overall feel should be that there should not be any harassment. But if you just go through the provision in totality, there are other avenues that we can even attach the employees' salaries as well and the interest as well. Whenever the business has some interest in some other business, we can also attach that interest as well. And this may be a shocking sort of thing, but this is not unusual. So now, if you allow that, why we have done this? This relief package has been introduced. We started our budget working in the month of January, and then the COVID-19 that came in. But what we thought that the last year was a very, very tough period for us and for the whole of the country and for the whole of the economy. There was a recession there. And for a growth spurt, you have to make laws simpler. This is our belief. And we have to remove inequities and inequalities, and the compliances should be reduced to lesser numbers, and those should be less costly. Right now, the big challenge is regaining momentum and relaunching the economy. That is at the heart of our budget this year. We have provided a lot of reliefs to the various sectors. The reason being that they should come up with the normal they should regain their confidence in businesses, and the people should get benefit from that. So that was in our mind. So we are also, in the beginning, Sajjeed has pointed out that we are not mindful of the two major facts, that we are not understanding the services as a whole, and there is a problem with the harmonization of law. I do believe in that. But we are introducing an emerging market centers, like we are focusing on e-commerce, which is the future of the business from now onward. I must tell you that Estonia is perhaps the only country in the world who has introduced a digital nomad visa for the freelancers and the service providers in that respect. So the key action points which we are going to take is that we have to understand the context. And tax is just a part of that overall economic activity. We have to provide the ease of doing business. So we are providing, like our introduction of our e-filing, e-audits, and we are also going to launch the B2B invoicing system. So this is all for the businesses to comply with, so that they should be learning from our experience and we should be learning from their experience that technology is the key for the future, and technology is the key for the future taxation. So we are
Javed sir, knowing you are always very future looking, and we will continue this conversation with the other questions because you are discussing the things we would want to discuss in the coming question. So yeah, I would like to share with you all that Javed sir, in addition to being a very learned member, we are proud to tell you is also an ACCA member as well. So we can at times liberty with him in that part. You have heard before going further, we have received a request from Mr. Khurram that he had an event to attend, a prior commitment, and he would be leaving us shortly. So I would, with the permission of all the panelists, ask you two quick questions so that we can continue the discussion, even if you have to go in between. So you have heard Javed Saab's perspective, and while he is absolutely right, this happens in many countries abroad. We do have to consider the local circumstances, and he has assured that it will not be used to cause harassment. Perhaps some agreement to an adjustment in the law to that aspect can be introduced. My question to you, Sir, is this: number one, Javed sir, can you mute yourself, please? Thank you. So, Khurram sir, my first question to you is that, as in the presentation, we know in the context of ongoing pandemic, the rates of taxes have been reduced for several services, particularly those hit the hardest by the pandemic, like eateries, tourism-focused, saloon, insurance, etc., etc. We also know that under Section 16, there has been a rationalization of tax rate in lieu of the input tax adjustment. How do you view these effects? Do you think these will positively impact the businesses? Number one. And the second question I would like you to answer, and that's a question from our members coming up constantly, is how can the disagreements on harmonization can possibly be removed? The Secretary Finance has been kind enough to show his optimism, but we know that this process has been going on for a bit, and there are always the stumble block at the last step. We still hope that this time is different, but what your views are as a professional? So kindly answer both the questions. Over to you.
Thank you, Omer. सबसे पहले मेरा जो एक मैंने सवाल के तौर पे ही समझिए कि पैदा कर दिया बिगिनिंग में, वो था रिकवरी ऑफ टैक्स के हवाले से। इस पॉइंट पे विद ड्यू रिस्पेक्ट आई डिसएग्री विद जावेद साहब। जावेद साहब का पहला कहना ये है कि हाइडिंग ऑफ बैंक अकाउंट्स इज वन ऑफ द रीजन ऑफ इंट्रोड्यूसिंग दिस प्रोविजन। द सेकंड थिंग इज, अगर आप सेक्शन 70 के दोनों क्लॉजेस को, क्लॉज डबल बी को पढ़ें, तो उसमें लिखा हुआ है कि वो पैसा जो टैक्स पेयर ओ करता हो उसमें से रिकवरी की जा सकती है। मुझे जावेद साहब ने एक एग्जांपल के तौर पे ये भी कोट किया कि जो बिजनेसेस जिसमें इंटरेस्ट हो टैक्स पेयर का, उसको भी अटैच किया जा सकता है। बिल्कुल किया जा सकता है, लेकिन वो वहां किया जा सकता है जहां उस टैक्स पेयर का इंटरेस्ट हो। यहां पर तो वो पेबल है टू द बैंक, हाउ कैन दैट बी अटैच? तो दिस इज वन पार्ट, दिस इज द पार्ट ऑफ द डिसएग्रीमेंट। सेकंड, आपने ये फरमाया कि जो फाइनेंस एक्ट 2020 से रेट्स ऑफ टैक्सेस को रिड्यूस किया गया है, उसमें मैं आपको सिर्फ ये अर्ज कर दूं कि आई एम थैंकफुल टू द मिनिस्टर फाइनेंस गवर्नमेंट ऑफ पंजाब मिस्टर मखदूम साहब फॉर दैट, एंड द चेयरमैन ऑफ द PRA जैनुल आबदीन साही साहब, जो हमारी लाहौर टैक्स बार एसोसिएशन की तरफ से भी एक रिप्रेजेंटेशन के तौर पे गई, और ये हमने उनसे रिक्वेस्ट किया कि आप रेट्स ऑफ टैक्सेस को रिड्यूस करें, इनपुट टैक्स एडजस्टमेंट्स को बेशक आप डिसअलाउ करें या थोड़ा किसी हद तक डिस्करेज करें, क्योंकि यहाँ पर आज तक मसला है आफ्टर द 18th अमेंडमेंट के 4 सूबों ने अपना अपना कानून बना लिया, फेडरेशन अपनी जगह पे मौजूद है, और इनपुट टैक्स एडजस्टमेंट के क्लेम की जब बात आती है या किसी टैक्स के चार्ज होने की बात आती है, तो टैक्स पेयर की टांगे, बाजू और फेडरेशन ने सर को पकड़ा होता है। शुक्र है कि सिर्फ 4 ही सूबे हैं, वरना कोई 5वां सूबा होता तो टैक्स पेयर के किसी और ऑर्गन की तरफ शायद तवज्जो होती। लेकिन मेरा ये सिर्फ कहना ये है कि एक तो मैं शुक्रगुजार हूं इस फोरम से मिनिस्टर फाइनेंस का, चेयरमैन पीआरए का, कि उन्होंने लाहौर टैक्स बार एसोसिएशन की जो रिप्रेजेंटेशन थी उसकी बेस पे टैक्स रेट्स को रिड्यूस किया। जहां तक ताल्लुक है आपके क्वेश्चन का कि इससे क्या होगा, what will be the impact on the business community, I believe it will be a positive impact, because इनपुट टैक्स एडजस्टमेंट के क्लेम्स के ऊपर बेशुमार किस्म की लीगल क्लिचेस भी लगी हुई हैं, वो इस किस्म के प्रॉब्लम से भी बच पाएंगे। और जो आपने हार्मोनाइजेशन की बात की, तो हार्मोनाइजेशन इज द बेसिक प्रॉब्लम ऑफ ऑल द 4 provinces and the federation. I have come across number of cases. देखिए, unlike the Federal Sales Tax Act of 1990, जहां पे गुड्स पे चार्ज है, ये सर्विसेज पे चार्ज है, और गुड्स के अंदर सिंगल है इवेंट ऑफ चार्ज, दैट इज द टाइम ऑफ सप्लाई विच इज द इवेंट ऑफ चार्ज। बट सर्विसेज के अंदर देयर आर 2 इवेंट्स ऑफ चार्ज, origination and termination of that service. So in this manner, the subject of service is always a difficult subject. अगर आप दुनिया में देखें, क्योंकि हम बेंचमार्क भी दुनिया को कर रहे हैं, तो आप इंडिया को जो क्लोजेस्ट मुल्क है उसको देखें, तो सर्विसेज वहां पे फेडरल सब्जेक्ट है और गुड्स जो है वो प्रोविंशियल सब्जेक्ट है, क्योंकि इसके अंदर 2 इवेंट ऑफ चार्ज है जहां तक मेरी नॉलेज। तो मैं ये समझता हूं इट विल टेक अ लॉन्गर टाइम फॉर हार्मोनाइजेशन ऑफ द इंटर प्रोविंशियल हार्मोनाइजेशन एंड द फेडरेशन के साथ जो हार्मोनाइजेशन है उसके हवाले। जहां तक ताल्लुक है कि इसको किस तरीके से बेहतर बनाया जा सकता है, मेरा ख्याल है किसी हद तक इस पे काम किया भी जा रहा है और तमाम प्रोविंसेस काम कर रहे हैं, और पंजाब भी बहुत काम कर रहा है, जिसके अंदर कमेटीज कॉन्स्टिट्यूट की गई हैं जो इन मुख्तलिफ इश्यूज को रेगुलरली विजिट करते हैं। इसमें सबसे जो इम्पोर्टेंट फैक्टर है वो है इनपुट फ्रॉम द बार एसोसिएशन, इनपुट फ्रॉम द स्टेक होल्डर्स। लाहौर टैक्स बार एसोसिएशन, इसके 7,000 मेंबर्स हैं, 7,000 मेंबर्स के बेशुमार क्लाइंट्स हैं, नंबर ऑफ प्रॉब्लम्स द टैक्स पेयर दे आर फेसिंग, वी आर मच अवेयर ऑफ दैट। सो आई वुड रिक्वेस्ट the representative of Punjab Revenue Authority to kindly look into the matter. We should be made part of the committees. We are there. हमारा कहीं मकसद टैक्स को चोरी करने को फरोग देना नहीं है, हमारा मकसद जो सूबा पंजाब है उसमें बेहतरी, उसके टैक्स के निजाम में बेहतरी लाना। तो प्लीज ACCA, Lahore Tax Bar Association, we are the people who are representing the business community, and the Lahore Chamber of Commerce and Industry, we have a representative from there. We should be made part of that committee in order to resolve the problems. We are lawyers, they are accountants, they are businessmen. We can tell you where the problem is, where the shoe pinches. So this is my suggestion. So thank you very much, Umar.
Thank you very much, Dr. for a detailed answer, and thanks for your company. So before going over to Javed Saab, Zia-Ul-Mustafa Saab, the same question to you. We do know that post-18 amendment, the lack of harmonization has been a real problem for many businesses. The harmonization is not just an issue between the provinces and federation, but between the provinces themselves too. So, for example, a business doing business across Pakistan is facing hurdles where one province is asking them to pay the tax on the basis of the origination, the other asking to pay the same amount of tax, but to a different province on the basis of termination. So, you as representative of a professional body do understand these challenges. And we know globally, I have had these discussions with all the respected panelists, even Javed Saab himself, that the world is coming closer with the entire European Union treated as a common European economic area. And we practically have 5 territories within a country in terms of doing business. So from ease of doing business perspective, it is a challenge. Zia Saab, in your professional opinion, how is the lack of harmonization causing any problems for the ease of doing business in the country? And how do you envision that the disagreements among provinces on revenue sharing, which are a hurdle for the lack of harmonization, can possibly be resolved?
Thank you, Omer. This is no doubt a big issue, the harmonization. One law is, asking one thing, and the other law is in contradiction of the, the first law. So we have addressed these issues on different forums. Like I will give you an example. Like in the tax law, in FBR, every company has to submit their annual audited accounts with the tax return. But on the other side, the ordinance which recently SCCP has introduced, and they are giving exemptions for on account of ease to do business for the companies, those who have the capital of 1 million, and that they are not supposed to submit the annual audited accounts, and the audit is not required for the company whose share capital is about 1 million. And the strength of these companies are about 70% in SCCP, which are falling with a capital 1 million limit. But on the other side, FBR is asking that for a company, it is mandatory to submit the audited accounts with the return. So then there is no benefit of the SCCP law for those businesses. This is one of the examples that we need harmonization among the corporate law, among the tax laws. And then one more example, like you are talking about province and federal, PEPRA rules. PEPRA rules are, again, Punjab has a different PEPRA rules and federal government has a different PEPRA rules, and the size of Pakistan, people are confused. So when you have 4 or 5, 6 PEPRA rules, 4 or 5, 6 tax laws, then how we can we can say that this is easy to do business? There is no easy to do business right now, because the tax laws are complicated and the corporate laws are not aligning with the tax laws. So these are the few examples which needs to be addressed, and the representation of the accounting bodies and the representation of the tax bar and the business community. This is a very good suggestion by the Shahbaz, but said that the regulators and the government should, while making all such laws and all such rules and regulation, must take the input, because we are the users and we are the community of which are day to day applying these laws, and we are using such provisions of law. So this is my suggestion, that harmonization, the question which you have raised, is very much relevant. Harmonization is required among the tax laws, corporate laws, and the provincial laws. So otherwise,
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Could you please mute yourself so I can ask the question to the next panelist? Are you ready, Kashif Saab? This one is for you. So, Kashif Saab, my question to you are twofold. Number one, your perspective on this incentive package. I would call it an incentive package for the construction industry. It seems that there is a harmonization between the taxation policy of the federal government and the provincial government, and you have referred towards it. How do you see the positive impact on the economy in Punjab in this context, number one? And secondly, you have heard the perspective of PRA from Javed Saab, that you, the businessmen, don't pay your taxes, you hide your bank accounts. That's why they have to do it. So why do you do that? Over to you.
देखिए, पहली बात तो ये है कि हमें इस बात को समझना होगा कि क्या हम पंजाबी टैक्स पेयर हैं या हम सिंधी टैक्स पेयर हैं। 18th अमेंडमेंट आई है, भाई हम पाकिस्तानी हैं। हम कितने इनको देखें, FDR को हमने देखना है, SRB को हमने देखना है, FDR इसको हमने देखना है, TRA को हमने देखना है, कहाँ हम रिटर्न डालें। और जहाँ तक जावेद साहब की बात है कि हम अपने बैंक अकाउंट्स को हाइड करते हैं, तो मेरा नहीं ख्याल, देखें ये तो शायद मशीनरी की यहाँ पर कमजोरी है कि जब इतनी ऑटोमेशन है और सिस्टमाइजेशन इतना ज्यादा है, तो क्या उन्हें पता नहीं चलता, क्या बैंक के पास ये इन्फॉर्मेशन नहीं है कि अगर आपकी वहाँ ट्रांजेक्शन ज्यादा हो रही है और वही छुपाएगा जो रजिस्टर्ड नहीं होगा, तो क्या उसको बाकी जो बॉडीज हैं उसको क्या वो चेक नहीं कर सकती, जितनी भी FBR है या PRA है। जहां तक आपने कंस्ट्रक्शन सेक्टर की बात की, अल्टीमेटली ये दोनों जो किया गया है, गवर्नमेंट को ये समझ आई है कि अगर हम पहले तो जी मैं कोविड का शुक्रिया अदा करूंगा कि जहां तक इतने प्रॉब्लम्स आए हैं, इकोनॉमी को इतने मसाइल आए हैं कोविड की वजह से, वहां पर दोनों गवर्नमेंट्स ने, फेडरेशन ने भी और प्रोविंशियल गवर्नमेंट है उसने भी बजट को आवाम के लिए आसान और बेहतर बनाया। अगर कोविड शायद ना आया होता और शायद इस तरह से हमारी इकोनॉमी इस तरह से ना रुकी होती, तो शायद हम इस तरह से ये जो बजट है उसको इस तरह से एक्सपेक्ट ना कर रहे होते। दूसरी बात, अब जो कंस्ट्रक्शन, इन्हें ये समझ आई है कि जो हमारी जो इकोनॉमी चलेगी वो उस ग्रे पैसे से चलेगी जो हम अभी तक शो नहीं कर रहे। लेकिन मैं इसलिए कह रहा हूँ क्योंकि पाकिस्तानी है, तो सबसे पहली बात तो ये कि आपको उस ग्रे पैसे को बाइट लाना है, और जो भी ये कंस्ट्रक्शन की जो इसके लिए एमनेस्टी दी गई है वो यही दी गई है, और जिसका मेन पर्पस भी यही है कि अगर आप दिसंबर 2020 तक उस पैसे को बैंक में रख देते हैं और वहां से अपने एक्सपेंडिचर्स करते हैं, आयरिस में अपने आप को अगर कर लेते हैं, रजिस्टर कर लेते हैं, तो आपसे सोर्स का सवाल नहीं किया जाएगा। तो देखें ये बात समझ में आई है कि हम देखें PRA की बात करते हैं, PRA को हम ये कहते हैं कि ये सर्विस प्रोवाइडर्स के लिए है, लेकिन जहां आप मैन्युफैक्चरर्स के पास आते हैं तो आप कहते हैं जी चूंकि आप एक ऐसे सर्विस प्रोवाइडर से फैसिलिटी ले रहे हैं, फॉर एग्जांपल प्रोफेशनल्स हैं, लॉयर्स हैं, अगर हम कोई चार्टर्ड अकाउंटेंट है, तो हमारी रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी है कि हमने उसका टैक्स विदहेल्ड करना है क्योंकि हम उससे एक सर्विस रिसीव कर रहे हैं। तो देखें आप हमारे साथ चाहते क्या है, क्यों लोग टैक्स नेट के अंदर नहीं आते, क्यों लोगों को ये प्रॉब्लम्स हैं, जो हम बार बार ये बात कहते हैं कि हम ईज ऑफ डूइंग बिजनेस की बात कर रहे हैं, हम फैसिलिटेशन की बात कर रहे हैं। तो जब तक आप अपनी इन रिटर्नों को कम नहीं करेंगे, अब जो आपका पंजाब, अगर मैं PRA का ही बताऊं, जो मिनिमम आपका डिटर्मिनेशन ऑफ मिनिमम टैक्स लायबिलिटी है, देखिए कानून तो आ गया। जावेद साहब ने ये भी कहा कि देखें ये इसलिए नहीं आया कि हमने आपको हैरेस करना है। जब एक कानून एग्जिस्ट कर रहा होगा तो क्या आपको पता है कि जो ऑफिसर उस कानून की तलवार हमारे ऊपर चलाएगा वो क्या मुझसे या आपसे पूछ के चलाएगा? भाई उसको तो इख्तियार दे दिया गया है, उसने बैंक अटैच करना है, तो क्या वो PRA चेयरमैन इज वेरी गुड, ही इज वेरी फैसिलिटेटिंग, बहुत अच्छे हैं, लेकिन जब क्या वो बैंक को अटैच करेगा तो वो FBR के चेयरमैन से या PRA चेयरमैन से पूछ के बैंक को अटैच करेंगे, और जब बैंक अटैच हो जाएगा तो वो बाद में कह देंगे ओहो आपकी तो टैक्स लायबिलिटी इतनी थी नहीं, हमने तो वो गलती से कर लिया, तो क्या वो पैसे वापस चले जाएंगे? देखें हम बिजनेसमैन के इश्यूज को देखें। और एक और बात, हम बार बार मिसाल ये देते हैं कि बाहर के मुल्क में ये होता है, अमेरिका में ऐसा होता है, इंग्लैंड में ऐसा होता है, तो क्या जो उनकी गवर्नमेंट फैसिलिटीज देती हैं, जो वहां का माहौल है, जो वहां का मुआशरा है, क्या पाकिस्तान का भी वैसा है? देखें आप हमसे इंग्लैंड की बात ना करें, आप हमसे अमेरिका की बात ना करें, आप हमसे पाकिस्तान की बात करें कि पाकिस्तान में क्या है, कितने लोग टैक्स नेट के अंदर हैं। क्या आप बिल्कुल कवानीन को अप्लाई करें, आप बिल्कुल सबको टैक्स नेट के अंदर लेकर आए, आप बिल्कुल सबको PRA में लाएं, बाकी सूबे अपनी जगह पे लेकर आए, लेकिन अक्रॉस द बोर्ड लाइन, जब सारे आ जाएं तो आप इन कवानीन को अप्लाई करें। जैसा कि जावेद साहब ने कहा,
पाकिस्तान के बारे में पूछते हैं जावेद साहब से, आपने बहुत अच्छा पर्सपेक्टिव दिया। तो जावेद साहब, यू आर एक्चुअली ऑन द हॉट सीट नाउ, काफी क्वेश्चंस आपके लिए जमा हो गए हैं, मैं उन्हें सम अप करके ओवर टू यू, आई विल कीप द डाइस देन। The first question is the suggestion that you have heard, and I think we all agree on it. And you, as a learned person, that I've always found you in our interaction, I'm sure you'll agree to form a consultative body or a committee with members from all these chambers, professional bodies, bars, especially ACCA. And you are well aware that ACCA has a global footprint and can bring local as well as global to the table. So the first question is your purview, your perspective on this suggestion, and then I'll ask you 2 follow-up questions which you'll have to answer before we continue. Over to you, sir.
Thank you very much. On the first proposal, I do agree on that. Rather, I must tell you that there is an advisory body of the Punjab Revenue Authority in which different stakeholders are part of that advisory body. So all we have to do again is that we have to reconstitute that body and with the addition of some few more members, will be enlarging its scope. So the proposal is very much welcomed, and it's a very good proposal. Rather, we have already been on that, and will be redoing this in the near future. I'll convey his suggestion to the chairman PRA. So
Thank you. The next question is a follow-up to the discussion you have been hearing. Even personally, sir, I do agree with you that in many countries in the world, there are similar powers vested in the laws. But you'd also appreciate, Javed sir, that there is an issue of a lack of trust and harassment, not so much with PRA, but with the other bodies. And people have genuine concerns that such powers can be misused. There might even be a constitutional challenge. You are well versed in the law yourself too, that this is practically a liability of a person, not an asset. So taking share from the asset is a different thing, and liability is a different thing. You have clarified that this is not for everyone. This is to focus on larger black fishes. So do you see a possibility that at least such a clarification can be made in the law to address the concerns that people have towards harassment? How do you view it, sir? Over to you.
Well, let me clarify this, that there are two aspects of a tax law. One is the implementation or enforcement, and the other one is the policy. As per policy, as Khurram was saying, that it's not possible that any officer at the spur of the moment will be resorting to the attachment of that running finance or demand finance. That will not happen, I assure you. And I assure you responsibly, because we have a policy that at the highest level, you have to seek permission for such sort of tactics being used against any of the taxpayers. Rather, we are proud that we have a history. We have a very clean history that we never use such tactics. So there is not even a single example. But unfortunately, we have to take the step. We have to introduce this provision because of certain reasons. Was billions of the tax for the past 5 years was stuck up in Lahore High Court, and very recently during the last year, all those cases were decided, and we are mindful of the fact that we have to recover that tax. And moving further, that we should keep a balance between a tax policy and a tax enforcement function. We are mindful of the fact that we will have to focus on that, because this is very essential in order to win the trust of the business community. I do agree with the Kashif's all the utterings that there is a big gap between the tax collector and the taxpayers, and you have rightly said that there is a trust gap as well. And coming back onto the harmonization sort of thing, I must tell you that this is being blown out of proportion. There are not such any problems of double taxation. You just give me one single example where the provinces have recovered a double tax. And I must tell you that there is a National Tax Council have been constituted at the federal level, and you will very soon hear a very good news that the provinces and the federation, they are just focusing themselves on the harmonization, and it's in the near future that we'll be achieving our goal. And coming towards the input tax adjustment, there is no bar in the law that anybody cannot claim any input tax adjustment, except where there has been an exception provided in the law. The real problem is between the provinces and the federation to get back that input tax adjustment, which is due either from federation or from a province to the federation. That is the real problem, but that's not the problem with the taxpayers. So let it be assured that this is not going to hurt the business community in any way. So this is the problem with the FBR and the PRA and SRP and the FBR, things like that.
Thank you, Javed Saab. The learned response I was expecting, and a very good news. Could you please mute yourself while I'm asking you the next question to avoid the echo? Thank you. So Javed Saab has told us the good news that we can expect good news on this front. And he has mentioned that the major challenges have been between the various provincial tax bodies. I concur with you largely, but with all due regard, I would like to share that it's not like there haven't been attempts to recover dual taxation. If you want, I'll bring to your office the cases of my clients personally. Yes, the attempts were not successful because the taxpayer went to the court of law and it was stayed, and there were directions. And I don't want to name the body, but the major culprits were not PRA. I can say that. And we do appreciate that. And that's exactly what we were saying, that PRA normally enjoy a very good reputation in taxpayer. And we even in professional circle, in ACCA's taxation committee, in tax circles, PRA is normally cited as an example, and hopefully we'll see that to continue. The closing question for all the panelists, and this closing question is only for this session, then we'll be opening a 10-minute session of Q&A with our attendees who have been excited and want to ask a lot of questions from you all. So Javed Saab, the closing question I'll put to you first for the scene setting. How do you envision the future orientation of Punjab's finances and economy, particularly considering the way this Finance Act has set the tone? Obviously, the expectations going forward would be very high. Over to you, sir.
So thank you, Omer. As I have already dilated a bit on that, we have done our part. We have discharged our liability. We have provided relief to the businesses. Now this is up to the businesses that whether they are going to pocket the incidents or pass it on to the general public. Because in the past, the efforts has been done. You see that providing relief has a very big cost. It has a cost of billions of rupees to the exchequer. But the sad thing is that it never succeeded. In 2014, the great VAT cut was done in France. But there are examples that instead of passing it on to the consumers or the customers, the visitors, or the patrons, the benefit was pocketed by the owners. And this is unfortunate. And this is the duty, I must say, there's the duty of the chambers and the trade bodies to oversee that. Whether this impact is being passed on to the customers, and if you lure them by offering lower rates, by lowering the prices, so you will have a surge in the business. So to me, we have done our part. We have discharged our duty. So it's now up to the businesses to come up to the occasions, join hand with us. And this is for the first time that tax collectors and the taxpayers and the businesses are on one point, and that is the revival of the economy, and that is the surge in the economy, because this is a big challenge, sir. Thank you very much.
Very, very well said, Javed Saab. Over to you, Kashif Saab. Same question, your outlook on the future orientation of Punjab's finances and economy.
इट इज अवर ड्यूटी, हमें टैक्स देना है. मैंने तो कभी भी ये नहीं कहा कि टैक्स नहीं देना चाहिए, लेकिन जहां पर बात है कि यस हम चैम्बर्स की या फेडरेशन की, आपके टैक्स बार्स की और ये पीआरए की, एफपीआर की, यस ये बहुत बड़ी जिम्मेदारी है कि हमें गाइडेंस दी जाए, अवेयरनेस दी जाए, क्योंकि एक बहुत ज्यादा अवेयरनेस की कमी है कि आपको क्या बेनिफिट्स होंगे. फिर मेरा बार बार वही सवाल होता है, मैं सब प्लेटफॉर्म्स पे ये करता हूँ कि यस फायदा क्या मिलेगा, हमें क्या बेनिफिट होगा. और क्योंकि जो अगर देखें जो एक परसेप्शन है, जैसा कि जावेद साहब ने बात की कि जो हम अगर टैक्स नेट के अंदर आ भी जाते हैं तो बात ये रिटर्न्स आपने डालनी है, पेनल्टीज आपको हैं. दूसरा, अगर आपको दूसरा इनवॉइस, फॉर एग्जांपल एक चार्टर्ड अकाउंटेंट है, वो आपको इनवॉइस नहीं पीआरए में रजिस्टर है और वो आपको इनवॉइस दे देता है बगैर पीआरए की इनवॉइस के, तो ये तो आपकी जो सर्विस रिसीवर है ये उसकी रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी है कि उसने 16% काट कर डिपार्टमेंट में जमा कराना है. अब वो बंदा जो प्रोफेशनल है वो ये कहेगा भाई मैं तो पैसे पूरे लूंगा, तुम ये अपनी पॉकेट से जमा कराओगे, तो अल्टीमेटली जो बिजनेसमैन के ऊपर है वो रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी बढ़ जाती है. और मैं एक और यहाँ पर बात आपके प्लेटफॉर्म से करना चाहूंगा जो बहुत जरूरी है कि जो आउटसोर्स कंपनीज हैं, जो ह्यूमन रिसोर्स कंपनीज हैं, उनकी जैसे चैम्बर की बात की कि चैम्बर को उनके इश्यूज को उठाना चाहिए, तो वो अपने इस इश्यू को हाईलाइट कर रहे हैं कि उनकी ग्रॉस अमाउंट के ऊपर टैक्स को चार्ज किया जाता है, उनकी सर्विस के अमाउंट के ऊपर उनके टैक्स को चार्ज किया जाए. देखिए जहां पर हम कंस्ट्रक्शन की बात कर रहे हैं, जैसा कि बीच में हमने कहा, शहबाज भाई ने कहा था कि देखें प्रोफेशनल्स को हमने जो हमारे बच्चे हैं हमने उन्हें ट्रेन करना है, उन्हें एजुकेशन देनी है. तो अगर हम उन्हीं के लिए प्रॉब्लम्स देते जाएंगे, अगर हम बाहर एक्सपोर्ट नहीं कर सकेंगे अपने ह्यूमन रिसोर्स को, हम यहाँ पर कंपनीज को नहीं दे सकेंगे, अगर ये बंद होगी तो अल्टीमेटली हमारा हम जो चाह रहे हैं कि हम बहुत सी नौकरियां दे सकें, तो हम नहीं दे सकेंगे। तो अल्टीमेटली हम सबको इकट्ठे चलना है, अवेयरनेस की बहुत ज्यादा जरूरत है, ईज ऑफ डूइंग बिजनेस की बहुत ज्यादा जरूरत है, और सबसे बड़ी बात ट्रस्ट की बहुत ज्यादा जरूरत है, अवेयरनेस की जरूरत है। दूसरा ये बताएं कि अगर हम पीआरए में जो रजिस्टर सर्विस प्रोवाइडर्स, देखें हम मैन्युफैक्चरर्स को भी बीच में ले आते हैं, तो देखें जब ये सर्विस प्रोवाइडर्स के लिए है तो हम चैम्बर्स बिल्कुल आपके साथ अवेयरनेस के लिए तैयार हैं, हम आपके साथ सेशंस के लिए तैयार हैं, हम हर जगह पे जाने को तैयार हैं, लेकिन हमें बताएं कि पीआरए में अपने आप को रजिस्टर करने का फायदा क्या होगा।
Thank you, Kashif Saab. Over to you, Zia Saab. Same question to you. Your perspective on the future orientation of Punjab's finances and economy. Your closing remarks.
इसमें उमर, जैसे I have already shared that as far as document is concerned, plan is concerned, it is a good plan. The issue is in implementation, and few recommendations for the implementation. That first of all, we are moving towards the technology, enabled services, and likewise the government should, go for such kind of things, that the technology enables collection, and they will motivate and encourage the people, as they are, encouraging in the motor vehicle taxes. They are giving a relaxation of 5%. So likewise, they have to give this kind of to the corporate as well for different collection modes. And one more thing, that as an accounting organization, when we are looking to the budget, there is a development budget and development expenditures we are going for. And under the development expenditure, normally we are creating some assets, like we are developing hospitals, schools, and such kind of infrastructure, which are in the definition of assets, not in the definition of expenditures. This kind of accounting is we are not doing at the government level, that we have to record all such things as properly as an asset, and the asset register of the government of Pakistan, government of Punjab, and the departments of government of Punjab, and the companies of the government of Punjab should be available. So in this way they can get the public trust on the on the initiative of the government. So we are simply recording receipts and expenditures. So, and in the there was an initiative of the government, that they have formed different companies for the different functions of the government of the Punjab. Like they formed Saf Pani Company, Park Management Company, Parking Management Company, Bazaar Management, Cattle Management. There are a number of companies they have created. This was a very good idea, that you should go for the decentralization according to the functions. But unfortunately, there are issues of the governance. They have not, nominated the people on the board. Still, there are in the federal government. I heard on a, on a news channel, that more than 100 companies of the public sector, they are without CEO and without the chairman of the boards. So, likewise, we have to enhance the, model of doing business, which is ultimately the corporate mode of doing business. So we have to move towards that direction. We should not, present these companies as a failure, because if you look to globally, whether it is the airport management, this is a company. Previously, it was authority mode. There was in various countries, they were managing these functions as authority mode, as board, as cell. Now the worldwide, the people are doing business and delivering the services mostly in the company mode. So this needs to be enhanced by the government. They have formed the companies, but unfortunately, due to the non-compliance of few things, they could not. This model is not looking as successful. But the thing is, this model is successful. We have to remove the ambiguities, rather than we should make them a controversial. So these are the things. Otherwise, this budget utilization and the proper accounting and the auditing will not be possible. So this is as an accounting organization, president of one of the leading Pakistan professional accounting organization, we are always saying that there should be accounting, then you should go for the accountability. We have first started the accountability, and there is no accounting at all in the government. There is single entry system. Still, there is single entry system. And
that will be a very popular slogan among chartered accountants and accountancy circle first go for accounting, then accountability.
Yes.
Perfect. Thank you very much. So, very well explained your views. Thank you for them. Need to modernize the public finances. I think that's outside PRA's purview. So we'll send that suggestion to the finance minister to take care of that. But that concludes our panel discussion. Now we'll be going for the Q&A session where the attendees, including members of various professional bodies, not just ACCA, ICMA, other attendees have sent their questions. So the questions, if they are referred to any particular panelist, it would be asked and addressed to them. If not, then I would generally put it to the panel to answer. So the first question is actually more like a compliment. It's from Hafiz Arsalan. He is saying, thank you very much, ACCA, for a very good session. Thank you, PRA, for explaining and accepting the proposal. Okay, thank you, Arsalan, for your feedback. The second question is from Murtaza, and he is asking that we hear about these taxation reforms every year. Will it actually happen this time? And this is being asked from you, Javed Saab. I think you have indirectly referred to it, but if you want to give any quick comment on that, please.
Process. It has to be taken in the true perspective that it's a continuing and an ongoing process, because the tax policy has to be responsive and get to the needs for the future as well. So we are banking upon our futuristic vision. We'll continue improving ourselves instead of proliferation of laws and introducing the cumbersome processes which are not going to efficiently do good for the businesses. We are embarking upon a strategic vision, which is the digitalization of the PRA. And last year we tried that it should be done by June 2020, but it did not happen because of this COVID-19. So now our target is that by June 2021, we'll be digitalizing the organization in total. So we'll be eliminating most of the redundant processes. We'll be focusing on the reducing the number of returns filing. We are just joining with the Federation and the other provinces for a single return. And only today I attended a meeting on Zoom for that purpose with FPR stalwarts and the representative from the other provinces. We are focusing on that. So we'll be easing out the compliances. The business process reengineering is being done by our IT team, and you will very soon see that through the intensive use of technology, we will be simplifying everything for the taxpayer. Everything for the taxpayer means from registration to the payment of the tax. So that's our motto and the vision for the coming
Great news, and we wish you all the best for that. Thank you. Could you kindly mute yourself again? Thank you. The next question is directed at you, Kashif Saab, and I think it's your alter ego who has asked the question, because it's in the same tone that you normally pass the comments. It's just a one-liner. Why is the business community afraid of digitalization of records? What do you want to hide?
नहीं मैं बिल्कुल ये एक मिसकंसेप्शन है कि हम नहीं चाहते डिजिटलाइजेशन, हम बिल्कुल चाहते हैं कि सिस्टमाइजेशन हो जाए। बात ये है कि लोग टैक्स देने से और टैक्स नेट के अंदर आने से नहीं डरते हैं, बात ये है कि वो उसके कॉन्सिक्वेंसेस से डरते हैं कि बाद में क्या होगा। देखें, आप जरूर टैक्स लें, हम टैक्स देना चाहते हैं, हम टैक्स देते भी हैं। अब बात ये है कि जो इनडायरेक्ट टैक्सेशन है आप उसको भी तो लें, और उसके अगेंस्ट देखें फिर वही बात है कि हर टैक्स पेयर अगर अपने रिटर्न को फाइल नहीं करता तो उसके कॉन्सिक्वेंसेस देखें। 114 की रिटर्न फाइल नहीं होती, उसके कॉन्सिक्वेंसेस देखें। 165 की रिटर्न फाइल नहीं होती, उसके कॉन्सिक्वेंसेस देखें। और एक और बात, अगर हम अपने टैक्स बेस को बढ़ाना चाहते हैं तो हमको उसके साथ साथ ये जो टैक्स पेयर है उसको ये डर होना चाहिए कि मेरी हर इंफॉर्मेशन डिपार्टमेंट के पास है। तो डिपार्टमेंट को ये बताना होगा कि हमारी हर इंफॉर्मेशन आपके पास से और देखें जब तक वो नहीं बताएंगे फिर उसके बाद पेनल्टीज लगाएं। और सबसे पहले तो आप टैक्स नेट के अंदर लाएं ना। और एक और बात कि अगर कुछ लोग छुपाते हैं तो आप सबको तो एक बोर्ड पे ना ले आए कि सारे बिजनेसमैन चोर होते हैं सारे। फिर तो देखें जितने प्रोफेशनल्स बाकी हैं फिर तो हम भी आसानी से बहुत कह सकते हैं कि जो दूसरा प्रोफेशन वाला है सारा उस प्रोफेशन वाले चोर होते हैं या सारे नहीं देना चाहते। तो ये बात सिर्फ बैंक अकाउंट्स बिजनेस कम्युनिटी के नहीं होते, बैंक अकाउंट सबके होते हैं। जो बाहर से ट्रांजैक्शंस आती हैं 111 के तहत वो सिर्फ बिजनेस कम्युनिटी की नहीं आती, वो बाकी सेक्टर्स की भी आती हैं। बहुत से प्रोफेशनल्स आपके स्कूल से ले लें, आपके दूसरे बिजनेसेस से ले लें, तो आप सिर्फ ट्रेडर्स को क्यों कहते हैं, आप सिर्फ मैन्युफैक्चरर्स को क्यों कहते हैं? तो हमें एज अ पाकिस्तानी हमें ये देखना है कि हम तमाम पाकिस्तानियों को अपने एसेट्स को शो करना है, हमें बाकियों को भी लेना है। सिर्फ एसेट्स ट्रेडर्स और बिजनेस कम्युनिटी नहीं छुपाती, सिर्फ अपने बैंक अकाउंट्स वो नहीं छुपाती।
ऑफ सोसाइटी। काशिफ भाई बड़े दिल से आपने बोला है एंड आई एम श्योर कि whoever asked the question, in fact I'll take the name ताहिर सरताज, उनको क्लियर हो चुका होगा आपका जवाब। थैंक यू। नेक्स्ट क्वेश्चन इज फॉर यू ज़िया साहब। It is about it is not directly relevant. Okay, I'll ask it anyway. They are saying that ICMAP is doing good work and we are proud of your collaboration with ACCA. When are you planning to start the joint qualification? I think they are referring to that MOU that was done, perhaps.
Yeah, इसमें चले because we have an audience from ICMA and ACCA as well. So I think by taking the opportunity, I can explain and that the teams of both the organizations are working on it, and most likely in September we will be in a position to offer the pathway to the ACCA graduates, and likewise we are expecting from the ACCA for ICMA graduates.
Fantastic. Congratulations for that, sir. Groundbreaking, truly. And
Omer, I think you are on a mute.
well, thank you for that. See, we are humans after all. Okay, Zia Sab, you'll need to mute yourself now so I can continue speaking. We have quite a few questions, but I'll try to limit that to 2-3 quality questions so that we can consider the time limit that our panelists are facing. The next question is directed towards you, Javed Saab. It appreciates your input and says, thank you very much. Your answers have been very detailed and clarified many misconceptions. It is thanking you for accepting the proposal and is asking, when can we expect to see ACCA and other professional bodies in the committee reconstitution that you referred to? And it's been asked by Abdullah Zaheer Meer.
Thank you. मैंने पहले भी अर्ज किया है कि मैं आज ही rather I'll just send a message to Chairman PRA, and soon you will hear a good news, and we'll recommend that ACCA and other trade bodies which are left so far, they should be included in the advisory council, the advisory body, and the government should notify it at the earliest.
Thank you very much, Javed Saab. We are receiving quite a lot of compliments. I would like to thank ACCA Pakistan and all the partner bodies for providing a platform and getting perspective from business community, lawyers, and accountant. Thank you, PRA and the Finance Ministry for your contributions. I'll just skip to the last question as we are nearing the time limit. And I think we can put that question to you, Zia Saab. It's saying, you have proposed about double entry system in the government circle. It has been a suggestion from the professional circles for a while. Why do you believe it's not happening? I don't think you can give any insights, but your professional view on that, Zia Saab.
The reason why it's not happening, actually, we have to improve the civil services system, because right now if we talk about the government inductions, that is mainly through a civil services system, and if we will not reform these civil services induction system, then there is a hurdle for a professionals to join this, not only the accountants, There are a number of professionals like engineer, IT experts, and any other discipline. So with the passage of time, we have now the expert qualifications, and we have experts in accountancy, in finance, in capital markets, in engineering, in IT, and then there is a different segment of IT. IT security is something different, and you cannot induct every person through the civil services. So this is one of the basic reason. And if you look towards the data of Auditor General of Pakistan and Accountant General of Pakistan, they have to audit the thousands of organizations of the government, but still the induction of professional accountant is on very lower side, and the system is not allowing any professional to promote up to the 18th grade. They cannot promote, and still we have we are facing that. We have a meeting with the Dr. Isha Saab, who is looking the reform system. Actually, these systems are designed 20-30 years back, but with the passage of time, there are a number of qualifications right now we have. Aap accountancy ko dekh lo. Information system auditor is something different. Management accountant has some different expertise, and forensic auditors are somehow a different field. So there are a number of fields introduced, and the number of specialists are available. So we have to go for the specialized model, not for the generalized system of education. So this is my submission. In civil services, we have groups, but these groups are not like a professional certification, and this is a general accounts and audit group, but they are not giving any kind of a full IAS and IFRS knowledge and account auditing center. So once a person has the knowledge, then he will implement. So I believe that there is right now lack of experts qualification in the government sectors, and which the induction systems needs to be improved. अगर कोई बंदा 18वें से ऊपर नहीं जा रहा, why he will go to the government sector? And when the professionals are not getting a good salary package in the government, then they will definitely not go for the government job. They will go abroad. These are the reasons. This is the
very well addressed and very valid concerns. Now we are within the last 7 to 8 minutes. So before requesting our honorable guests for their closing remarks in a couple of minutes, I would first like to say Eid Mubarak in advance to everyone. In case we don't have another session before the Eid holidays, please follow the COVID-19 SOPs, keep yourself safe, keep others safe. ACCA has planned to do similar sessions in collaboration with our partner institution on SINs, finance sector as well. And we have some plans on doing sessions on interesting topic like the construction package. And I can see Kashif Saab nodding. That's been in the pipeline for almost a week now, will be happening soon. So with that, over to you, Javed Saab. Thank you for a very thought-provoking discussion, and thank you for the insights and the candid discussion that you indulged in. Please share with us your closing remarks for today's.
Thank you, Omer, and thank you for the other guests and the participants and the audience, especially those who are not visible. So it was, as usual, it was a great occasion where has been a platform provided to me and my organization to put our point of view. So what I can see is that please treat PRA as a futuristic organization. Always we try to resolve the issues of taxpayers and solve problems through the innovative use of technology. Our signature and that very sort of known projects like RIMS, like Blue Sky Thinking, like other things, like PRA-I, PRA Mirror, all are manifest that we are a forward-looking organization. So in the very near future, we are also going to introduce the B2B e-invoicing system. And for that purpose, we want a cooperation from the civil society, and we want the cooperation from the businesses to come forward, so that a responsive and a fair taxation system is evolved, where everybody is at ease to make the compliances without the hassle of going through so many complex sort of processes. Thank you very much.
Thank you, and that is the dream. Inshallah, we'll see it happening. Now, over to you, Zia Saab, your closing remarks for today's session, and feel free to appreciate everyone else too.
Thank you, Omer. First of all, in my opening speech, I appreciate ACCA for taking this advantage, and the organization which you are supporting this cause, like Lahore Chamber of Industries and PRA, which is the main stakeholder in the budget and one of the implementing agency. So the presence of Javed Saab and the presence from Lahore Chamber is very encouraging for professional accounting organization like ACCA and ICMA. And ACCA and ICMA are in a strategic partnership, and the objective of this partnership is to promote the professionalism in the country, to share the knowledge, to give the recommendations to the relevant stakeholders. And it is good to know from the Javed Saab that PR is moving towards technology-based solutions, and the kind of input given by the Vice President Lahore Chamber, that they are very much concerned to about the economic activity, how to enhance it. So I think the very valuable contribution, and you organized in a very very professional manner, and I believe that the attendees have get a lot of things from this session. And our suggestions are in front of PRA and in front of the finance department. And only objective is, the ICMA, whether it is ICMA or any other organization, because we have no commercial objectives. We are doing this for the betterment of the society and for the betterment of the systems, and likewise Law Chamber. So these suggestions are for the betterment and for the ease to do business, so that the economy should grow. And this kind of session, by ACCA is very encouraging for all of us. So I am thankful to ACCA team and to yourself, head of ACCA, Sajjeed Aslam, and yourself for organizing this, and other team members of ACCA. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Zia Saab. A very beautiful message. We thank you, and we look forward to our continued strategic involvement with all partners, especially ICMAP. And as you said, this is for the greater good of the profession and to give back to the society and our country. Last but not the least, by any measure, Kashif Saab, try to keep it brief. We are running out of time, but your closing remarks for today's session. Over to you.
बहुत शुक्रिया और सबको मुबारकबाद है जी कि आप करते हैं। और देखिए, जो मेरा क्रिटिसाइज करने का मकसद सिर्फ ये नहीं होता कि मैंने क्रिटिसाइज करना है, मैं सिर्फ उन इश्यूज को हाईलाइट करता हूँ कि इन प्लेटफॉर्म्स के ऊपर अगर इन इश्यूज को हाईलाइट किया जाए तो उनका सोल्यूशन निकल सके। और देखिए, हम हर तरह से पीआरए के साथ हैं, हम हर तरह से हर डिपार्टमेंट के साथ हैं। मैं ऑन बिहाफ ऑफ लाहौर चैम्बर ऑफ कॉमर्स एंड इंडस्ट्री मैं ये कहता हूँ कि हम हर तरह से कोऑपरेट कोऑर्डिनेट करने को तैयार हैं। आप जिस सेक्टर को चाहें, आप हमारे लाहौर चैम्बर में आए, हमें बुलाएं, हम अवेयरनेस सेशंस के लिए हर तरह से जा रहे हैं। हम टैक्स देना चाहते हैं और हम चाहते हैं कि हमारा टैक्स बेस बढ़े, ताकि हमारे ऊपर से जो रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी है वो कम हो और सब पे बढ़े। हाउएवर जी, इट वाज अ वेरी गुड सेशन, और मैं चाहूंगा कि इस तरह के और सेशंस भी होते रहें, ताकि अवेयरनेस भी होती रहे और हमारे इश्यूज और हमारे कंसर्न्स को भी इस तरह से हाईलाइट करने का मौका मिले। थैंक यू।
Thank you very much, Kashif Saab. Very well said. Intention बिल्कुल हमेशा बेहतरी की होती है, and I'm sure everyone, including Javed Saab, appreciates the perspective, because we know it's not criticism for the sake of criticism. It is actually feedback with the intention of improvement. So that brings us to the last minute of today's session. So I'll take the honor of closing by, first of all, thanking the entire ACCA team who made this happen, thanking the entire MNP and Taxation Committee for their contribution, thanking Sajjeed Aslam, head of ACCA Pakistan and a good friend, thanking the Honourable Secretary Finance Punjab, Abdullah Khan Sumbal, for taking time out from his busy schedule, thanking our members from 6 Digit who made the presentations today, Sikandar and Suleiman. I would also like to thank our strategic partner, ICMAP Pakistan, represented by their Honourable President, Mr. Zia-Ul-Mustafa Saab, our very own and very learned Javed Ahmed Saab, the tax economist at PRA, representing the valuable authority of our country. I would also like to thank, in absentia, Mr. Khurram Shahbaz Saab, the President of Lahore Tax Bar Association, who was kind enough to spare the time despite his prior commitments. Shows the level of partnership ACCA enjoys with its trusted partners. And last but not the least, again, by any Mayer, my very good friend and a very learned person, very vocal and a person with a good heart, Kashif Anwar Saab, the chairman of Standing Committee on Taxation, Lahore Chamber of Commerce and Industry. I hope all the attendees enjoyed today's session. The recording of this will be available on ACCA's channel. Link to those I will also put on my LinkedIn profile, which you can search by the name of Omer Zaheer Meer. Thank you all for sparing the time today, and we hope you had a good session. Till next time, take care.